conference. I know many of you tuned into the program might be curious, and today on our show we have a person, a representative of Parliament, of course, who attended this all-party conference. Let's see what he has to say about if or not the all-party conference achieved its goals today. It's none other than Professor Tissa Vitarana, the leader of the Sama Samaj Party, also a constituent party of the government. Professor, there was a lot of drama surrounding this all-party conference. We had the major opposition party, the Samagi Jana Balavegya, pulling out yesterday. We also had the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, or the Jatika Jana Balavegya, pulling out of this all-party conference. The Tamil National Alliance was in two minds about attending the conference, but today we saw representatives of the Tamil National Alliance, certain parties that boycotted the all-party conference. We had representatives of their parties, however, present, including the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress and also the All Ceylon Makal Congress. But despite these party, theatrics, Professor, do you think that this conference really achieved whatever the conference was supposed to achieve, which is finding solutions for the issues that Sri Lanka is facing right now?
Yes, I think the main achievement would be the fact that it was possible to express the views of different parties in the presence of the President. And so that at first hand he gets the idea of what is really going on. And I think that the discussion took place reasonably, shall I say, frankly, and people said what they had to say or wanted to say, so that the different party positions were very clearly brought out, and I would say it was more one not of confrontation, but of understanding what each one wanted.
Professor, do we really need an all-party? I mean, it's all good that the all-party conference took place and people were able to express their views frankly, but isn't that the reason why an institution called the Parliament exists, that it's called the most supreme body in Sri Lanka, and when you speak in Parliament you have parliamentary immunity, meaning if Ranjan Ramanayaka made the statement that he did inside Parliament, you can't prosecute him. You can't prosecute anyone for statements made in Parliament. So that sort of immunity, that sort of privilege, that sort of respect is given to members of Parliament or to the institution of Parliament, so that discussions can be held frankly, so that people can say the things that they want to say, so that Parliament, the Cabinet, the Executive, the President can understand the real situation in the country. Is this not happening in Parliament, and hence the need to hold an all-party conference?
Yeah, I would say, you see, now just to give you an example, during the time of the previous President, Mahinda Rajapaksa, the party leaders in the government party would meet with him once a week. And there would be a frank and open discussion where views were expressed, positions were criticized or accepted, and the outcome was that you had the government functioning as a team,
right,
putting a single set of proposals and ideas for the governance of the country.
Right.
Now, since the present government came in, this is really the first time that we are having a meeting like that.
An all-party conference.
Yeah. Where the heads of political parties were present, were able to express their points of view. For instance, I myself gave my views in written form. I have it here in my pocket.
Right.
And read it out, you see. And the others listened to what I had to say.
Professor, was it a meaningful conversation?
I would say it was meaningful. Sorry.
So, speaking about the all-party conference that was held today, Professor, there was a consensus reached at the all-party conference. This was at least some of the views expressed by the former Prime Minister. But before we really get into that, the answer to my previous question, Professor, was it a fruitful discussion?
I would say it's a fruitful exchange of views. And I think, you see, the President, in the present order of things, is not in Parliament. So he doesn't know what is happening and what points of view are expressed in Parliament.
Professor, I find that a little bit hard to believe. Doesn't his advisors, doesn't his cabinet praise the President of what is really going on in the country?
No, but second-hand news is
well, Professor, with all due respect, inside
thing.
Parliament, when we look at some of the discussions, let's take, for example, a day if Parliament debates matters for about 10 hours, about 9.5 of those hours would be frivolous debate, throwing mudslinging.
No, I
So, but Professor, no, are you seriously contending that the President isn't aware of the real situation in the country? Or
no, I would put it this way, that you see, there is no interaction, as it were, between the President and leaders of, now finally, I'm part of the government. I'm a party leader who, now, I'm not a member of the cabinet.
right. So you're
So I don't know what is going on in the cabinet.
right.
I am quite unaware of what decisions have been taken and why. And then I become converted into as they say, a signal
Right.
we vote with the government, whatever is.
But of course, Professor, I think both of us can agree that this is not a flaw in the system per se. Maybe the system was disrupted or was damaged with the passage of the 20th Amendment. I'm pretty sure we had this same discussion on Face the Nation recently, and you would agree on that, that the 20th Amendment, of course, by consolidating so much of powers within the executive, gave the executive a free arm, no checks and balances, no responsibility to Parliament. And of course, this would have damaged that system. But besides all of that, there is still room for debate and consensus within Parliament, and I'm pretty sure, Professor, you would agree with me if I say that it is this is not an allegation or an accusation, but it's just a simple fact that it was this government that disregarded Parliament, bypassed certain procedures in Parliament, even attempted to establish a separate fund where money can be collected that is not under the purview of Parliament. It was struck down by the Supreme Court. So you would agree with me when I say that that is one of the many wrong decisions or ill-advised decisions that this government has taken?
No, I put it the other way around. You see, we are having a totally unsuitable system of government. Our politics in Sri Lanka grew up on the Westminster model. And there was good governance coming up from the people upwards, right up to the cabinet.
And then in '78 it all changed.
78 changed everything. And the American presidential system was grafted artificially onto this system.
This Westminster.
Yes, and the executive president is the most powerful figure now. The graft. In other words, the draft has taken over the initial body, you see.
Right.
Right. So.
But Professor, I think as you mentioned quite rightly the other day, the President has given your party and many other parties in the government an undertaking that this will change to come the new constitution. You still hopeful?
When?
I'm asking you, Professor, when? Are you still hopeful?
It's long past that I said at the time that we objected to a particular amendment. He said, don't worry, within 1 year I'll be coming up with a new constitution, and I will include what you want there. And so for the time being, we...
So did you speak about this at the all-party conference today, Professor?
No, you see, actually, it was not just, shall I say, interchange
of
views, shall I say, a discussion based on arguments, etc. Nothing like that. Each party leader gave a statement which gave the position of that party on the current political and economic situation, and what that party thought should be done as a solution. Right? And in fact, say the document I have here,
right.
the English version. Actually, right. I presented a singular version, which was then collected. Later on, the English version also was collected by the clerk to the president, presumably for him to go through it. You see? And in that way, it was really like an opportunity for us to express our views on the present situation as well as what should be done.
Professor Tissa Vitarana, many people are calling these steps that are taken now steps that have been taken, to close the stable after the horse is bolted. Are you of the same opinion?
I don't know which horse you are referring to, but as far as I am concerned, we have over a period of time, not just this government, a number of governments lived beyond their means, got into increasing debt, foreign debt in particular. For instance, our foreign reserves, which were in the region of 7 to 8 billion US dollars, have come down to less than 1 billion now. And our dollar availability has also gone down, so much so that our letters of credit are not accepted abroad. So we are in a bad way. Look at the rupee. Right, the value of the rupee has fallen, and 285, I think, is the current number of rupees to buy a dollar. So things have really been, shall we say, reached crisis proportions, and perhaps one of the ideas of this all-party conference was to review that and make suggestions that would enable us to get out of this situation.
Professor, I was, just before this, I was going through a little bit of the footage that was, of course, aired regarding this all-party conference that was recorded, and there were some progressive ideas that were put forward. There were some decisions that were put forward that were hard decisions, including a decision on the fuel price formula, one that fluctuates with the international market, and there were many other decisions or views that were expressed at this all-party conference. But we will get into the details and we will question, well, a member of this or representative who attended the all-party conference on behalf of his party on what exactly transpired at this all-party conference. Stay tuned. You're watching Newsline. We'll be right back after this short commercial break.
Newsfirst, Newsline.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
TV1 රැස්වීදෙන ජීවිතේ.
A war of words between Ranil, Cabral and Basil.
මේ අන්තිමට ඉවරෙන්නේ විජය රජුරෝනේ. එයා ලංකාවට ඇවිල්ලා ආවේ නැත්තම් මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. ඕකයි වෙන්නේ ඉතින් මුන්.
දැන් ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක දුන්න බෑ.
ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක මට කමන්න දෙන්න මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ.
නෑ ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එක දෙන්න බෑ. ඒ මොකද ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එකේ අපි කෙලෙන් කරලා තියෙනවා.
What is Basil's plan?
අතකින් කර වැලකී අතකින් දඬු බෑය මරණ තුනක් ඇති මිනිසෙක් පැණිකෑය.
MP Diana Gamage's proposal to promote cannabis cultivation.
මේ කංසා කියන මේ බගාව වාණිජ භෝගයක් මේක අපේ රටට නැති කරපු සම්පතක් මේක පිටරටියන්ගෙන්.
Jatika Janabalawegaya participates in protest march. US says it will be Sri Lanka's partner in facing the economic challenge. 10 more Sri Lankans flee to India. Government accused of deals as people stand in queues.
කෝ විනිවිද භාවය කෝ ප්‍රසම්පාදන ක්‍රමවේදය මේ වගේ ගනුදෙනු ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ අහිංසක ජනතාව අර පෝලිං වල ඉන්න මොහොතක.
දැන් ඔබතුමා තෙල් ගේන එක ගැන දැන් කියනවා තෙල් වල හොරකමක් වෙන්න යනවා කියලා. ඔබතුමාලාගේ විපක්ෂයේ වෙලාවට කියනවා තෙල් ගේන්න කෑෂ් නැහැ කියලා.
කරුණා කරලා මේ මෙතනින් එළියට ගිහිල්ලා අර පෝලිමේ ඉන්න ජනතාව
හොඳයි අපි නිමා කරමු.
ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නකෝ බලන්න.
Newsfirst, Newsline.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsline Live. We're in conversation with Professor Tissa Vitarana. Professor has had a very long day. He's in the morning he attended the all-party conference. Professor, getting to some details that were discussed at this all-party conference. Former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has said that one way forward for our country, or one of the only ways forward for our country, is to come to a common consensus on the fundamental economic structure of this country. This does have some sense in it, because what we've seen throughout the past is that whenever every government comes into power, they change the fundamentals. They change the fundamentals. We saw when this government came into power, they gave massive tax breaks. They reduced the tax net, almost a completely different policy from the previous government, even as far as the fuel pricing formula was concerned. Certain subsidies were concerned. There is a drastic difference between the fundamentals of the economic policies that different governments adopt. Now, my big question to you, Professor, is that you have been vehemently against any capitalistic policies.
No. This is a capitalist society.
Okay.
And society is being run on capitalist policies. That's a different matter. But the question is, are you going to act to strengthen the capitalist class and make them more powerful and greater exploit the people and get richer? Or are you going to make sure that the people are not neglected, that they have a reasonable standard of living and are assured of a job and shall we say stability in their lives?
Okay, Professor, let's try to apply what you said into a practical perspective. Let's take, for example, the fuel issue that we're currently facing. So a fuel pricing formula would allow fuel prices to fluctuate with the global market prices. In turn, whenever there is a global conflict like the Russia-Ukraine conflict or any other issue, maybe OPEC cuts down on their production, Sri Lanka is going to be affected by this, and fuel prices are going to rise. So as a member of parliament, if a proposal is brought to agree on this, as as one national body, Parliament entirely, all parties to agree on this fundamental economic principle that we will maintain a fuel pricing formula in Sri Lanka. Would you agree to that?
Yes, depends on what the formula is. You see.
Well, I think the basic fundamental of this formula would be similar to what was introduced before. Technically, when fuel prices rise up in the global market, fuel prices in Sri Lanka will also rise.
Okay.
So, would you be in favor of a policy like this?
Yeah.
Which could be dubbed as a bit capitalistic.
No. You see, the thing is, there are certain essential services, say public transport, which are used by a majority of the population. The people who have the luxury of having cars and of their own and so on are a minority.
Okay.
Right. Now, that minority can afford to pay more for what the world price rise reflects. But I think there should be some degree of a range within which the rise in the cost of travel for the ordinary person should be retained within that framework. It should maybe allowing it to fluctuate within, say, a 10% limit or something like that would be okay, but not beyond that. So that those who can ill afford it can get to wherever they want at the price that they can afford.
Well, Professor, I believe that the government has been contemplating for a while on this fuel pricing formula, and I think even the general public knows that it's in the making, it's in the pipelines, and it will come to fruition soon. So, of course, we hope that you would express these same views, these unfettered views, to the government in pursuant to pursue.
If I get a chance.
If you get a chance, Professor, you've been very skeptic about the power of your voice, be it within Parliament, be it within the government. But Professor, you said today that there was an opportunity to express views frankly. Do you feel heard today?
Yes, for the first time.
For the first time?
For the first time.
Professor, but you still continue to be a part of this government.
Yes, because
Why, pray tell?
I don't want the Yapalana lot back again. They ruined the country, and their coming to power would be disastrous. You see,
so, but Professor, I
complete open economy with flooding of foreign goods, the policies that America wants us to follow. No way.
So, but Professor, now the former Prime Minister was speaking about a consensus on the fundamentals in how to run our economy. Now, this should have been done many years ago. We've been a free nation for 70 years, give or take 30 plus years for civil war. Still, that isn't an excuse to neglect matters of crucial importance in the economy.
Sure.
But Professor, we've seen the same politicians changing faces, changing parties, changing sides, coming into Parliament, maybe getting voted out for a few years, coming in through the national list even maybe, but they have failed to come to a common consensus. Do you think this is possible in Sri Lanka?
No, you see, for instance, to come to a consensus, you see, we have to accept the fact that we have a class society, right? So you have the rich, right, who are the owners, the people who make the profits, who have a luxurious lifestyle. Then you have say, the next layer of professionals and others who are supporting that rich layer, who also may be practicing their professions, and who are better off than the rest of the population. And then you come right below, where each person is struggling to exist day by day. And in my view, and the poverty figures given by the Medical Research Institute, where I worked earlier, by the nutrition department, were that 60% of families was below the poverty line.
In Sri Lanka?
In Sri Lanka.
And you're referring to statistics from which year?
Sorry?
You're referring to statistics
last year.
From last year. 60% of the families in Sri Lanka are below the poverty line.
Yeah. That is the real position. 18% are malnourished. So this is forgotten. And you see, you only see the motor vehicles and the
fuel queues.
The fuel queues of recent onset due to a particular set of circumstances. But what I'm saying is, otherwise it is completely hidden. What I said, you see. So that is the reality of our society. And 60% of our population are living in poverty. I have no estimate, but I would guess that out of that 60%, maybe half have 1 meal a day. Right? So this is the real situation. So when you are talking about consensus, right? How do you reach a consensus between a person who is struggling each day to feed his family the following day? Many of them are itinerant workers who have to go look for a job each day, right? And if they get work, the family is fed.
If they don't,
right.
it's
If
not.
they don't, they
How
say
can you
yes.
come to a consensus?
Yes, and with rich people like you, how can they?
Rich people like me,
right?
Professor.
I'm joking.
You've been extremely mistaken, Professor.
No,
I
understand,
Professor. But it's really refreshing, Professor, to see a member of the government. You still are a member of the government,
yes,
right? A member of the government coming on national television and admitting that people are suffering, and people are suffering to this extent, because I think many of our viewers, at least if not Professor Tissa Vitarana, would agree with me if I say that there is a slight issue on credibility as far as the administration of the country is concerned, with the things that they say, with the things that they do. But of course, having an all-party conference and allowing parties to express their views, allowing people like eminent people like Professor Tissa Vitarana to finally, after 2 years of being in government, be heard by the government is of course a positive move, and I'm sure the people will appreciate positive moves as much as they resent and condemn the ill-advised decisions that the administration has taken. Thank you very much, Professor Tissa Vitarana, for joining us on our show and admitting these. And we, of course, will continue to provide you with more space to air your views. We only hope and pray that your views are heard within Parliament and within government as well. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us on our show.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to express myself.
Definitely, Professor. We will always be there, because News First is where the people come first. Thank you very much to all our viewers out there for tuning in as well. Until we meet again, take care and God bless.